In 1893, the President of the United States vanished onto a private yacht. America was in financial panic. Banks were failing, businesses were collapsing, people were losing jobs. And while the country needed its president to look calm and strong, Grover Cleveland was hiding a dangerous secret. A tumor had been found inside his mouth. But the most dangerous part was not only the tumor. It was what could happen if America found out. If the public believed the president was seriously ill, fear could spread even faster. Markets could panic, political enemies could attack, and the country's confidence could fall even deeper. So Cleveland made a decision that sounds almost impossible today. He would not go to a public hospital. He would not announce the operation. He would not let most people in Washington know. Instead, he would board a private yacht, sail into the water, and undergo major surgery at sea. The public was told he was taking a quiet summer trip, but behind closed doors, the yacht was being turned into a secret operating room. This is the story of President Grover Cleveland's hidden surgery. A surgery so secret that the truth stayed buried for more than 20 years. To understand why Cleveland took such a risk, you have to understand the moment America was living through. Grover Cleveland had returned to the White House in March 1893. He was already unusual in American history. He was the only president to serve two non-consecutive terms. But his second term began at one of the worst possible times. The Panic of 1893 had shaken the American economy. Railroads were failing, banks were closing, investors were scared, workers were losing jobs, families were worried about their savings, and confidence in the country was dropping fast. At that time, the president's health was not just a private matter. It was a national concern. If Americans believed their president was weak, seriously ill, or unable to lead, the economic panic could become even worse. Then, in the middle of this crisis, Cleveland noticed something strange. There was soreness inside his mouth. Doctors examined him and found a growth on the roof of his mouth, near his upper jaw. Samples were studied. The diagnosis was serious. A tumor had developed inside the president's mouth. Today, historians and medical experts often describe it as a form of cancer. But in 1893, even the word cancer could terrify the public. Cleveland and his doctors understood the medical danger, but they also understood the political danger. If newspapers discovered that the president needed major surgery, the country might believe he was dying. And in the middle of a financial crisis, that rumor alone could make everything worse. So the operation had to be hidden. And the plan was bold. A close friend of Cleveland, Elias Cornelius Benedict, owned a private yacht called the Oneida. The yacht would travel from New York toward Cleveland's summer home at Gray Gables in Massachusetts. To the public, it would look like the president was simply taking a short vacation. But inside the yacht, something very different was being prepared. The yacht's saloon was converted into a surgical space. Furniture was moved. Medical tools were brought on quietly. The surgical team boarded discreetly, and the crew was told a simpler story. The president only needed dental work. That cover story mattered, because if rumors spread, the White House could say Cleveland had only been treated for a dental problem. And that is exactly what officials later claimed. On July 1, 1893, the secret operation began. President Cleveland was placed in a chair aboard the yacht. There was no modern hospital room, no public announcement, no official transfer of power, just a sitting president, a small group of doctors, and a converted yacht floating through Long Island Sound. The doctors used anesthesia. They worked through the inside of Cleveland's mouth, so there would be no visible scar on his face. That detail was critical. Cleveland had a thick and famous mustache. If surgeons had cut through his cheek or left a mark on his face, people would have noticed immediately. So the doctors removed the tumor from inside the mouth. The operation was serious. Doctors removed the growth along with several teeth and part of his upper jaw and palate. The surgery took about 90 minutes. For any person, that would have been frightening. For a sitting president undergoing it secretly on a yacht during a national economic crisis, it was extraordinary. But the operation worked. There was no visible scar. His mustache remained untouched. And the country had no idea what had just happened. Still, Cleveland had another problem. The surgery left damage inside his mouth. His speech could change. His face could look different. And if either happened, the secret could collapse. So a dental specialist created a special prosthetic device. It filled the space left by the surgery. It helped support his speech. It helped restore his appearance. And it allowed Cleveland to return to public life without obvious signs of what had happened. That device became one of the reasons the secret survived. Cleveland could speak. He could appear in public, and most people did not realize that part of his upper jaw had been removed. For a while the plan seemed to work, but then one reporter got too close to the truth. His name was Elisha J. Edwards. He heard that Cleveland had undergone a serious operation aboard a yacht. In August 1893, Edwards reported the story, and he was right. But the White House denied it. Officials and doctors dismissed the report. They suggested that Cleveland had only received dental treatment. They made Edwards sound careless. They made the story seem exaggerated. And the result was harsh. Many people believed the reporter had made it up. His credibility suffered. The man who had reported the truth was treated as if he had published a false rumor. The surgery succeeded, but the cover story also succeeded. For years, most Americans did not know what had really happened. Cleveland continued as president. He recovered. He finished his term. And the public mostly accepted that nothing serious had happened. The secret remained hidden after Cleveland left office. It remained hidden even after he died in 1908. Then, in 1917, one of the surgeons who had been there finally told the truth publicly. Dr. William W. Keene published an account of the operation. He confirmed that Cleveland had undergone major surgery aboard the Oneida. He confirmed the operation had been kept secret. And he also acknowledged that the reporter who exposed the story had been unfairly discredited. After more than 2 decades, the hidden story was finally proven true. The president really had disappeared onto a yacht. The yacht really had been turned into an operating room. The tumor really had been removed in secret, and the public really had not been told the full truth. But the question is why? Why would a president hide something this serious? The answer is complicated. Cleveland believed he was protecting the country. America was already facing financial panic. If people believed the president was seriously ill, the crisis could become worse. In his mind, secrecy may have seemed like the responsible choice. He wanted to avoid public fear. He wanted to protect confidence. He wanted the government to appear stable. But there is another side to the story. The American public was denied the full truth about the health of its president. And that raises a question that still matters today. How much does the public deserve to know about a president's health? Should a president have medical privacy like any other person? Or does the country have a right to know when its leader is facing a serious medical condition? Cleveland's secret surgery is one of the earliest and most dramatic examples of this debate in American history, and it would not be the last. Later presidents also faced questions about hidden or carefully managed health issues. Woodrow Wilson suffered a major stroke while in office. Franklin D. Roosevelt's health and disability were carefully presented to the public. John F. Kennedy's medical problems were not fully known during his presidency. But Cleveland's case stands out because of how cinematic and secretive it was. A president, a tumor, a yacht, a fake vacation, a hidden operating room, a mustache that helped hide the evidence, and the reporter punished for telling the truth too early. That is what makes this story feel almost unreal. But it happened. And it happened while America was already afraid. The Panic of 1893 was one of the worst economic crises of the 19th century. People were worried about banks, jobs, money, and the future of the country. Cleveland believed that revealing his condition could shake confidence even more. So instead of letting the nation see weakness, he created an image of normal leadership. He went away quietly, had surgery in secret, recovered privately, and returned as if nothing serious had happened. For a time, that image held. There was no immediate public panic over his health. The country did not know the truth, and Cleveland survived for many years after the operation. But history eventually uncovered what the public did not know. On July 1st, 1893, the President of the United States underwent major secret surgery on a private yacht. Doctors removed a tumor from his mouth. They avoided leaving an external scar. They used a cover story about dental work, and they kept the truth hidden while the nation struggled through an economic crisis. The story of Grover Cleveland's surgery is not just a medical story. It is a story about power, secrecy, public trust, and the pressure presidents face to appear strong even when they are vulnerable. It reminds us that history is not always found in speeches, elections, or wars. Sometimes history happens quietly, behind closed doors, inside a private yacht, far from cameras, far from voters, far from the people who believe they know what is happening. Grover Cleveland's secret surgery at sea shows how much a nation can be kept from knowing about its own leader, and it leaves behind a question that still feels important today. When the health of one person can affect the confidence of an entire country, where should privacy end and public truth begin? So the next time someone says presidential history is boring, remember this. In 1893, America's president secretly boarded a yacht, not for a normal vacation, not just for rest, but for a hidden operation that removed a tumor from his mouth and part of his upper jaw. The country was told almost nothing. The reporter who discovered it was denied, and the truth stayed buried for more than 20 years. Grover Cleveland survived. The surgery succeeded. The secret held. But the story still matters because it shows that sometimes the most powerful secrets in American history were not hidden on battlefields or inside spy rooms. Sometimes they were hidden behind a president's smile. If you want more hidden American history they never taught in school, subscribe for the next story.